Welcome to Farm Year Daily, a Field Forward podcast. I'm your host, David Geiger. Today on Farm Year Daily, the Iowa Hunger Summit was hosted in Des Moines. I headed over to chat about what food insecurity looks like in the state with the World Food Prize President, Mashal Husain, as well as HyVee Vice President Tina Potthoff. Please be sure to like and follow the podcast as well as our social media at Field Forward Pod. We would love to have you join our community, keeping folks informed about what is affecting our farmers. This is Farm Year Daily. And joining me on Farm Year Daily, we are at the Iowa Hunger Summit here in Des Moines, and I'm speaking to President of the World Food Prize Foundation, Mashal Husain. Mashal, thank you so much for joining me on Farm Here Daily, and let's just talk about the Iowa Hunger Summit and the relationship with the World Food Prize Foundation. What is that, and why is it important that we're talking about hunger here in Iowa?
Yeah, so this, David, is our 19th annual Iowa Hunger Summit, so it's a long-standing tradition, something we're incredibly proud of. It's one of our key signature events throughout the year. Iowa is our home turf. This is where our global headquarters is in Des Moines, Iowa. While we have a very global reach and impact, we're very proud to call Iowa home. And with that in mind, as we think about global food security, nutrition insecurity, poverty alleviation, it's incredibly important for us to have a focus on what's going on and on our home turf here in Iowa. And the Iowa Hunger Summit, now in its 19th year, is all about addressing food security and food insecurity in our home state. So we've dedicated the day to a series of plenary conversations, to keynote presentations, to a whole slew of breakout sessions, and now we have the meal packaging event going on. So a whole day is dedicated entirely to the theme of food insecurity. This year's title and theme is From the Ground Up. So we decided that this year we would talk about all the various stages of life that are impacted by food insecurity, and that it doesn't just impact young people, teenagers, college-age students, the elderly, adults, but it's quite telling to know and to showcase the fact that every age group, from infancy onwards to end stage of life, is impacted by food security. So our plenary sessions focused on conversations throughout the day with addressing each segment of the Iowa population.
Before I hit record, we were talking about how food insecurity appears. In a third world country, it's very easily arguable that it's very apparent. It's easy to observe. In Iowa, not so much. It is kind of a hidden hunger, as we were talking before. Can you touch on how that difference of what is obvious and what may not be so obvious can impact how we view hunger from a perspective of giving and a perspective of feeding people?
Yeah, I think here in Iowa, compared to many other parts of the world where I have personally lived, where it's so much more obvious and, you see poverty all around you. And David, as you and I were discussing, one can almost, unfortunately, be desensitized to it because it's everywhere all around you in third world countries. And there's such a disparity between the elite rich and the poverty-stricken poor. You don't as obviously see that here in Iowa. So with that, it's especially important to be incredibly sensitive. It can be the working professional right next to you. Wendy Lane, our keynote speaker this morning, talked about starting her career as a journalist and being incredibly food insecure. I mean, we're talking about a professional who has a college education, who is an aspiring journalist, and someone who you would not naturally think would be food insecure. So it's particularly important to be sensitive to the fact that it's really all around us. And you can't tell simply by the way someone appears or presents themselves that they would be food insecure, their families, their children. So it's less obvious.
I think that goes to my next question, which involves what's going on behind us, and that is a bunch of meal packaging volunteers here at the Iowa Hunger Summit. We have Meals for the Heartland also being a part of this, and they're packing up meals for people to try to make sure they help out with alleviating food insecurity. How do you engage people more in being a part of this conversation and being a volunteer?
Yeah, so you can hear the noise behind us. It's this healthy, productive, joyous noise sprinkled with a little bit of music. You've got passionate Iowans from all walks of life, young students, high school students, onwards to people throughout different phases of their careers, their lives, all here with one common mission: to package meals. So our game plan, our goal is to prepare 35,000 meals over the span of about an hour, hour and a half. And all of these meals are going to Iowans. So as we collaborated with Meals from the Heartland, this is all food that is going to be sent to places across Iowa. And it's a very passionate group, and I think the best way you engage them is, first of all, you inform them. Throughout the day, they've had a chance to hear from passionate doers across different organizations. You expose them to the issues, and then you have activities for them to be a part of the solution. They've had a chance to experience and become aware of some of these issues, and now they are addressing the issue. And I think you can hear that it's a terrific feeling. We have not done the meal packaging in a few years, so this is a return to the tradition after about 5-6 years pre-pandemic, and we have had incredible interest from the community to just come here and show up and be of help. This is what Iowans are all about, stepping up and being a part of the solution.
The Iowa farmer is well known for having a mantra of feeding the world. That is something we are known as the breadbasket of the world in the Midwest. And I think it's a really good opportunity as well to engage the production side of things that we do here in Iowa and talk about how that helps not only our own neighbors in the state, but also the folks around the world. And that's a lot of what the work of the World Food Prize Foundation really attempts to look at as well. What are some things that you all are doing to engage the farmer from here, maybe farmer from other countries, and make it so that there are more avenues of ways to support that fight against food insecurity?
Yeah. The World Food Prize has a significant emphasis on elevating the farmer voice. Iowa farmers, farmers around America and around the world. So through all of our convenings, we held Dialogue Next in Mexico. It was centered around farmer resilience. We brought to the stage farmers from Latin, South America, Mexico, and they had a chance to talk about the issues, the gaps, the opportunities, their successes. We are once again, as we're headed to India for Dialogue Next in India on September 8th and 9th. This is also very much centered around the betterment of the farmer. Actually, the title of our conference is Take It to the Farmer. This was a theme that was incredibly important to our founder, Dr. Norman Borlaug, the man who saved more than 1 billion lives. And these were some of his last words: take it to the farmer. And so we have really embraced that theme in all of our work. When we bring the global community to Iowa in October, where we welcome usually about 70 countries from around the world, a large segment of those attendees are farmers. Many of our conversations bring farmers to the Borlaug Dialogue stage. And, when I invite agribusiness leaders and CEOs and talk about innovation, the questions that those conversations center on is, what are we doing? What innovations are we bringing for the betterment of smallholder farmers in America and around the world?
I'd like to end on a thought I was just thinking as I was standing here in the World Food Prize Foundation building, and that was just some text that was on the wall that included things like, food is a global right of man. It's something to that. I'm probably butchering the quote exactly. Could you share that quote with me?
Yes. So this is a quote by Dr. Norman Borlaug that is etched on the wall, inscribed on the wall of our rotunda. So as people walk into this historic 120-year-old building that for 100 years served as the Des Moines Public Library, and for the last 15 years has served as the global headquarters of the World Food Prize, as they walk into where it says the City Library, we want them to know food is the moral right of all who are born unto this world. When I started my remarks this morning, and as we opened the Iowa Hunger Summit, I shared this quote with our Iowa audience, this quote: food is the moral right of all who are born unto this world. And how are we as Iowans embracing it for our fellow Iowans and for Americans around the country and for the global arena as well?
I appreciate you clarifying that quote. It's really beautiful from a man who devoted his life to feeding people. It's amazing to me. I think the idea is something we all can get behind, especially if you think of children who have no ability to feed themselves or people who are in really bad situations. I think everyone can agree that a meal is something that's so easy to give and so easy to share with and help people. So when you think about that quote, when you think about that as a final note here, what do you think we should be pushing for? What are you pushing for at the World Food Prize Foundation to push that goal, to emphasize that goal as we move into the 2026 and beyond?
We need to really focus on this as the world is increasingly faced with conflict, and as food insecurity rises. This issue has to take front and center. So there are three things that are really important to us. One is to have outcomes-focused conversation, to draw the global community, to draw Iowans, to have productive, engaging dialogue around food insecurity, and to talk about solutions. Today, all day, was about that. When we have the Borlaug Dialogue, it's exactly about that. And the Borlaug Dialogue has come to be known as one of the most cutting-edge conversations in global food security. So people are coming to Iowa from all over the world to be a part of this conversation and to be a part of the solution, to talk about what are the outcomes of this conversation and what are the next steps? What is the action that we're going to take? Secondly, I think it's really important to inspire the next generation. So unless and until young people are made aware of the challenges, the global challenges, the Iowa challenges in food security, how would they be prepared to address and tackle the issues of today and tomorrow? So that's also very important to the World Food Prize. So, and then thirdly, we one of our key pillars is also around recognizing and rewarding people who are making an impact in the global arena in increasing the supply and availability of food. So I believe it's a three-tiered approach, recognizing and awarding and applauding people who are the change makers and the doers in this space. It's about bringing people together and being a convener of conversations and raising awareness about this and coming up with actions to tackle the problems. And thirdly, to inspire that next generation and to prepare them long-term to address these issues.
President of the World Food Prize Foundation, Mashal Husain, thank you so much for joining me on Farm Here Daily.
Thank you for your time, and come on over anytime, and we'd love to welcome your audience to come to the World Food Prize. Maybe you want to do an event in the building, and we can have a little podcast or something, and welcome the audience to experience the Hall of Laureates. And in this space, we have many storytelling elements. So this building serves as a public museum, as a convocation center, and as an educational facility. And in addition to preserving the historic integrity of this building, which was, as I mentioned, the Des Moines Public Library for 100 years, we've made it LEED Platinum. So this is the highest measure of energy efficiency and conservation. Very difficult to do in historic buildings, much easier to do in modern buildings. And we've given this building a new sense of purpose and a new identity as our global headquarters. And we have many storytelling elements. So the artwork that you will see all around you serves as telling a story about global food security, telling the story about our World Food Prize laureates, those hunger-fighting heroes, sharing the story of Norman Borlaug, his journey in different parts of the world and the impact that he has made, and also conveying America's agricultural and humanitarian heritage and the role that America plays. So come on over sometime, and we'd love to showcase everything that this historic building has to offer.
I appreciate it, and it's a good reminder to ask, when is the Borlaug Dialogue this year?
Yes. I want to share with you that we have a special rate for Iowans, and I really want Iowans to participate as we draw scientists and scholars and hunger fighters and presidents and ministers of agriculture from around the world, from almost 70 countries. I want Iowans to be at the table and to be a part of this conversation. So the dates of the Borlaug Dialogue are October 21 to 23. We start early on the morning of Tuesday, October 21st at 9 a.m., and we end on the afternoon of October 23rd, Thursday. And then our culminating event is the Laureate Awards Ceremony at the State Capitol. We are so proud of our Iowa State Capitol that for more than 2 decades has welcomed us to have this majestic presentation of the World Food Prize. As this year, we award the World Food Prize to our 56th World Food Prize laureate, Dr. Mariangela Hungria of Brazil. And I want Iowans to be a part of this. And for a moment, I think for a week, Iowa transforms into a mini United Nations as we welcome people from 70 countries.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again for joining us on Farm Here Daily.
Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. Thank you so much.
This is Farm Here Daily. We will have more conversations on the way, but first, let's take a look at the marketplace. And there was grain at the end of the day across the grain and livestock trading sectors for Wednesday's market close. September corn 4 cents higher, 4.05 and a quarter. December rising 4 and a quarter at 4.24. Soybeans in August 18.5 cents more at 10.13 and a half, with September rising 18.5 cents at 10.05 and three quarters. Soybean meal in August $3.10 a ton in the green at $268.40. Wheat in September 3.25 cents up at 5.41 and a quarter, with December rising 3 cents at 5.61 and three quarters. In the livestock market close for Wednesday, August live cattle $1.50 a hundredweight in the green at $223.90. October up $1.47 at $220.75. Feeder cattle in August $3.30 a hundredweight higher at $325.57, with September rising $3.47 at $325.85. Lean hogs in August 50 cents a hundredweight more at $104.42, with October rising $1.22 a hundredweight at $88.70. That is the Wednesday market close. This is Farm Here Daily.
The number one selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
And joining me on Farm Here Daily, we are at the Iowa Hunger Summit in Des Moines, and I'm speaking to Tina Potthoff, Senior Vice President with HyVee. And Tina, we are hanging out, feeding people with not only the folks from the Iowa Hunger Summit, but also Meals for the Heartland. There are meals being packed right behind us. Could you tell me about your and HyVee's engagement with this process and why you think it's important?
Yes, we really focus on food insecurity and how we can eliminate that in the state of Iowa and also around the entire country, to be honest, including the entire world, which is why we've partnered up with the Iowa Hunger Summit as well as Meals from the Heartland to be a part of today's events. It just so happened that we are a sponsor of the Iowa Hunger Summit, and then they came along and said, hey, Meals from the Heartland might be able to do a packaging event. Can you sponsor that as well? And so really to be able to collide with two of our most important organizations that we work with has been a fantastic day for us to see this all come to fruition.
Absolutely, and I think the combination just seems so natural. I wouldn't have even questioned that it wasn't happening every year.
Right, exactly. This is just an added bonus this year for them to be able to package. We have had a relationship with Meals from the Heartland since 2011. We have a program called One Step. So when you go into our grocery stores and you purchase a One Step cereal box, a HyVee branded cereal box, a percentage of those proceeds are actually going to provide meals and funding to Meals from the Heartland to provide meals to people all over the world. So that's where our partnership with them comes in. And then with the World Food Prize and the Iowa Hunger Summit, we know that they're having critical conversations over food insecurity, and that's what we're invested in, making sure we're doing our best to eliminate. You know, ever since COVID, I think people have had a misperception thinking, oh, the numbers remain the same, oh, they're kind of stagnant. And just, you know, with our current landscape, our current environment that we're in right now, especially with different things that are happening in Washington, D.C., we really need to put a focus on the fact that hunger is still a major, major issue across the entire country, including right here in Iowa, and we're seeing some record numbers that we haven't seen before. So whatever we can do to help bring that down is a win in my book.
I think I was speaking to some folks with DMARC upstairs, and they were telling me 1 in 4 people in Iowa visited a food pantry.
Yes.
Over the last year, and that's a pretty staggering number. So it's still an important issue that, you know, a lot of people aren't going to be talking about, and this is a good thing, they don't really want to admit they're going to a food pantry because it's there to help them at their worst moments.
Right. And so what we're also seeing is a major uptick in childhood hunger, especially. Over the past 18 months, we are part of a large campaign called the 100 Million Meals Campaign. We work with food banks, we work with food pantries, schools, to be able to raise awareness about the hunger issue, and also actually get to the point where we could fund 100 million meals through Feeding America. Now that campaign has ended, we wanted to do something else. So we're in the process of launching some pilot programs where we can actually get into schools and figure out ways that we can get in touch with families and children and actually put a sandwich or food in a child's hand when they're coming to school and saying that they're hungry.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, because Feeding America, USAID, those are things that there's going to be a void as we move forward in filling those needs of global food insecurity. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of ways folks like you guys are stepping up to make sure that there is some stability worldwide, not just in Iowa, but also around the world when it comes to hunger.
Yeah, we're really focusing in on our local communities. I mean, it's been great to work with Meals from the Heartland. They essentially take that message of food insecurity and go global with it. And then we are really doubling down on not only here in Iowa, but really our 8-state presence that we have with HyVee locations, to the point of we're even going back and reevaluating our food rescue program that we have. So if, things are getting close to that expiration date, how you get them off the shelf and get them immediately into the hands of someone who can use that food and use it immediately that day. So we're looking at speeding up that process. How can we bring even more food into that process, and being able to feed people that are hungry with our food rescue program too. So while everyone, including people around the nation, our lawmakers, our community advocates are looking at this issue, we are too at HyVee.
I really want to dig into that particular note, because being a part of your community seems to be an important part of what you're talking about. Why does HyVee want to be so deeply involved with its local communities within those 8 states?
Well, I mean, it's our responsibility. That's the way we look at it. It is our responsibility. We have customers that are supporting us, and so in return, we should be supporting our customers, especially those that are going through times of need, whether it be a disaster like we saw in Greenfield, and people needing food even then because their home's been wiped clean and they need to have food immediately, or it's just going to the local food bank and saying, okay, we're going to put you in contact with a store who can actually get you the soup or get you, the apples that you need. We feel like we need to have a presence in those areas.
I do talk a lot about farmers and farming, so I'd like to relate this to agriculture as a whole. And I think the best way to go about it is to point out that farmers, agriculture is not just about growing food. It's about the packaging. It's about the transportation. It's about the logistics around the world, around the state. And that is a big part of feeding people as well.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And, and we actually put a lot of focus on that too. We have a homegrown program, which is really when you see that sign at our stores, it means that food's been locally sourced within a certain parameter around that particular store. So really what you find here in Des Moines is not going to be the same type of products that you're going to see in Rochester, Minnesota. And we take that to heart because we know that we can maybe cut a little bit of a carbon footprint out. We know we can support local that way. And so that program continues to grow on a yearly basis too.
I think I'd like to just focus one more time on the community aspect and HyVee's approach to working with their local communities and supporting local communities. When you are engaged with that, because I think there's a lot of companies that, detach themselves from where they're based and where they're from. When you are engaging with your local community, what do you think is the biggest part of doing that?
Mm-hmm. I think, our involvement speaks volumes. We really want to make sure that we've been known to be autonomous, right? The stores can make decisions on their own, and those store directors that you speak to can really be able to help out those local organizations. And we don't want to lose that at HyVee. We want to make sure we're continuing to have that be an element of our culture. And really, when you're able to have a decision like that made at the local level, someone saying, hey, I run my local food bank or food pantry, I have a need that's out there, or hey, I'm a local farmer, I have a solution that I think can really help our local community. That is so important for us not to lose and to keep an eye on, because it's led to our success, and we're going to continue to do it. As we're celebrating 95 years this year, and so we're going to continue to do it for another 100 more.
Getting very close to that centennial. Tina Potthoff is the Senior Vice President at HyVee, participating at the Iowa Hunger Summit here in Des Moines. Tina, thank you so much for joining me on Farm Your Daily.
Thank you so much.
This is Farm Your Daily, a Field Forward podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Again, in order to continue to produce this type of local content, we would love to have you join our community, so please follow the podcast as well as our social media channels at Field Forward Pod. You can also find me on social media at Geiger Reports, as well as WHO TV Channel 13 every weekday in their morning and noon hour programs. Again, I'm your host, David Geiger, and I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody.